Hey everybody, welcome back. We got some more spoilers for Rivals of Ixalan. I thought they were actually going to start tomorrow on Monday, but I guess they're starting today. A nice little New Year's Eve gift. So, first of all, happy New Year's Eve, I guess. If you're watching this and it's the new year, well, then I guess there's going to be more spoils out, and I don't know what I'm saying at this point. But anyway, we got 6 new spoilers, but 2 of them aren't really new, and it's just because I haven't covered them yet. But yeah, Evolving Wilds is our first one. Obviously, it's just Evolving Wilds. We got a new art, new promo art. Not that very exciting. I'm counting it as a spoiler because I don't know why. The second one is Vona's Hunger. This is an actual spoiler, but it came out last week, and I just didn't make an entire video on one card. I wanted to wait until, the first set of cards got spoiled and kind of throw it in that mix, and that is this video. So, Vona's Hunger, for 2 and a black, you get an instant that has Ascend. Ascend is a new mechanic, and I'm very excited about this mechanic. It says if you control 10 or more permanents, you get the city's blessing for the rest of the game. So it's not something where you have to continually hold 10 permanents, which can be really difficult and constructed. But you just have to have 10 permanents when you cast something that has Ascend. So Vona's Hunger, Ascend, that's how that works. It says each opponent sacrifices a creature. We've had a lot of these 2 and a black, and then they have to sacrifice a creature when it enters or when you cast it or something like that. So that's not something new. But it says if you have the city's blessing or you have the Ascend mechanic on, instead each opponent sacrifices half the creatures he or she controls rounded up. That's good-ish. The problem with this card is that you give your opponent the choice of what to sacrifice, right? That's always been the problem with sacrificing. Obviously, if this card, you just want to throw it in because there's a god, specifically not like a Scarab god or anything, but like a Oketra or Aronas or something like that, Vona's Hunger can deal with that. If you're playing against tokens and your board has gone super wide and get rid of half the tokens, the problem is there's just better sweepers out there than this. I think this card was more just to show us the Ascend mechanic, and I'm really excited for this mechanic. A lot of people are saying, okay, Ascend's only good in token stacks, right? Not necessarily. I think this is also good in ramp, especially if you're just ramping with lands, like you're playing Beneath the Sands or Spring to Mind. Hour of Promise is probably the best card to mix in with Ascend, because not only does that give you 2 lands, but it also could give you 2 tokens if you control 2 deserts. So I'm like an Hour of Promise with the Ascend mechanic, which is why I kind of think Ascend's going to be an Abzan color combination, maybe black-white, maybe black-green, maybe white-green, maybe all 3. We'll just have to see what type of other Ascend cards come out. But yeah, right now, Hour of Promise is looking to be the top card for enabling Ascend, because it gives you 4 permanents with 1 card. And yeah, so that is Ascend. Vona's Hunger, kind of just, I don't know how strong it'll be. We'll have to see. We'll have to see if I ever make an Ascend deck and how well this actually performs. So that is that. Now let's get to the newer stuff. We're going to start with kind of the lame stuff and move up. Here is River Darter. It's a Merfolk Warrior. For 3 mana, 2 and a blue. You get a 2/3. Okay, bad stat line. It says River Darter can't be blocked by dinosaurs. This card is garbage, obviously. It's an uncommon. Probably only worth anything in draft, and that's if you're heavy merfolk. Yeah. Again, not much more to say about this card. Just an uncommon merfolk. Not very strong. Let's move on. Let's go to Atzocan Seer. It's a creature human druid. It's 1, a green, and a white. It says tap to add 1 mana of any color to your mana pool. Before we read the second part, and you guys can probably read it for yourselves, just the fact that this costs 3 mana to have that tap ability to tap for any 1 mana of your, or any 1 color, is just bad, right? We already have 2 things that tap for any color, but they cost 2 mana, and that's just so much stronger. Also, those things aren't costing 2 different color requirements, right? It's Servant of the Conduit, cost a 1 and a green, and then Drover of the Mighty, which is 1 and a green. And those 2 cards are just infinitely better than this one, because it doesn't require 2 different colors to cast, and it only costs 2 mana, and their stat lines are pretty good, and depending on what decks you're playing. So right there, it's already got kind of a downside. It is nice that it's a 2/3. That means things like Magma Spray can't kill it. But things like Lightning Strike, Sweltering Suns could still kill this thing. So 2-3 isn't the best stat line. Maybe if this was like a 2-4, that it'd be worth thinking about. But yeah, weak stat line, costs 1 more influence and mana to cast over something like Servant of the Conduit or Drover the Mighty. So right there, it's already got a negative tick for me. But it says sacrifice this to return target dinosaur card from your graveyard to your hand. I don't know if playing a 3-mana ramp creature or mana dork is really worth that other ability. And maybe it is, right? The problem with dinosaurs is if they get killed, it's really hard to come back, right? That's always been the problem with ramp decks, and I really don't like that. But maybe that ability is really, really worth it. And I just don't know yet. But the problem is when you're trying to ramp, and this is a lesson that I guess a lot of people should learn, and if you don't already know, this is a good lesson for you. Your ramp has to be coordinated with itself. So that means if you have a 2-mana ramp, you should not be playing a 3-mana ramp, because that 2-mana ramp should ramp you into a 4-mana thing next turn. So you should have 2 4-mana ramp into the rest of your stuff. But for 3, you need a 1-mana ramp, but there's no 1-mana ramp card in Standard. So that's the problem with having stuff that costs 3 that ramps you. So yeah, this card doesn't seem like it's going to get any play. Maybe in draft. Probably the only thing is in draft. Maybe if there's a dinosaur deck commander, you could throw this in. Those are the only 2 formats I could really see this getting play. All right, let's move on to an actual dinosaur, and I'm actually excited for this card. This card is a very good sideboard card. Thrashing Brontodon. It's 1 and 2 green. The double green is kind of a pain to get, but it shouldn't be too hard if you're playing dinosaurs, especially if it's just green and red. For 3 mana, you get a 3/4. Already the stat line's pretty good. It's got that kind of like the similar stat line to Ripjaw Raptor, where it's a 4-mana 4/5, and this is a 3-mana 3/4. So again, dodges Sweltering Suns, dodges what is it called? Lightning Strike. But yeah, so good stat line, and then you could pay 1 to sacrifice it to destroy target artifact or enchantment. This is just really good. It's a really good 3 of in a sideboard, right? So you could destroy things like, I don't know if anyone's still playing Liliana's Mastery. Artifacts are pretty big. Godpharaoh's Gift, pretty annoying. Panharmonicon, good thing to target with this. There's just a whole bunch of artifacts and enchantments in Standard right now. Cast Out, IXALAN's Binding are another 2 enchantments that you probably want to take out. So, Thrashing Brontodon, Metallurgic Summonings is another one. I just think this card is such a strong sideboard card for dinosaurs. It's never going to be able to beat Raminar Bread. It's never going to be able to beat Energy. But this card definitely helps the Dinosaur Tribal still be the top dog out of all the tribal decks. Probably next to Vampires and Cats. Those are probably the top 3 to me. But Pirates too. I don't know. They're all just so... They all need like an extra push, right? They all are missing 2-3 cards. And this could be one of those cards for dinosaurs. A very good sideboard card indeed. So yeah, Thrashing Brontodon is probably my second favorite card from the spoilers we got today. And my first favorite is the first Planeswalker we get to see. That's not a Planeswalker deck Planeswalker. It's the actual Angrath. It's Angrath the Flame Chained. And we're going to explain this card, or what deck this fits in, after I explain everything about it. So, for 5 mana, it's a 3 black and red legendary Planeswalker. Starts with 4 loyalty, and that's actually a problem with this card. I'll get into that later. But the +1 is each opponent discards a card and loses 2 life. It's a pretty good +1 ability. It's very similar to Nicol Bolas in a way, where they have to discard and lose life. Or they just discard, and then, yeah. So, it's just to rip stuff out of your hand, or out of your opponent's hand. Very good card advantage in a way. So, that's the +1. The -3 is gain control of target creature until end of turn. Untap it. It gains haste until end of turn. Sacrifice it at the beginning of the next end step if it has converted mana cost 3 or less. This is a really strong ability for my black-red Steel and Sack deck. Then, unfortunately, I cannot put this in yet. So, if you guys haven't seen my black-red Steel and Sack deck, it's a really fun, not a very competitive, but a really fun idea of a deck, I'll link it in the description below. But the -3 for this really fits with that deck. So basically, if you steal something that has converted mana cost 3 or less, you just sacrifice it on your end step. There you go. Super sweet. The problem is with this, most Planeswalkers, their minus ability gives you a significant boost. And if you're aiming for things that cost 3 or less, you're not giving yourself a boost. I think if this -3 was, you steal it, and no matter what the converted mana cost is, you sacrifice it on end step. I can see why they made it converted mana cost 3 or less. They don't want people stealing other people's Scarab Gods. That still wouldn't work, right? So, I don't know. It seems that the ability seems on the weaker side. It's not hard removal. A lot of Planeswalkers, their minus ability, their second ability, is either removal or like extreme card advantage or extreme board advantage. And this is conditional removal, and that can be a problem. And also, this is where the starting loyalty counters actually come into effect. If this would start with 5, you could +1 then -3 twice. But since it starts at 4, you have to +1 twice to -3 twice. And that's just 4 turns, and you're going to hide. It's in standard or modern or any, I don't know if modern's ever going to see play with this card. But it just, the 4 loyalty starting is actually brutal with this -3. So, yeah. So let's go to the ultimate, which is a -8. Each opponent loses life equal to the number of cards in his or her graveyard. This usually means you're going to win the game if you're trying to get the ultimate off with Angrath. The problem is, again, starts with 4 loyalty. It's going to take, what, 4 or 5 turns to actually get this loyalty off, and that's if Angrath doesn't take a single point of damage, which, let's be real, is really hard to do. So, yeah, I don't know if... I'm obviously going to try to make a deck built around this card. But the problem is getting the ultimate off is going to be way too difficult. You might have to play Grixis just to, I don't know. The card, I guess if you have an empty board and you have Angrath off and you keep making them discard cards, you can eventually win the game if you're playing like a control deck. If the four starting loyalty counters on this actually hurt this card so bad. I think that is just too big of a hit against this card to actually make this not playable. And I don't think this is playable in any competitive deck. That's for sure. Maybe if it was 5 mana and the -3 was a little bit better, maybe like gain control target creature, untap it, sacrifice it in the beginning of the next end step, and then your opponent still discards a card or something like that. I don't know. It just seems like the -3 is too weak, and the +1 can sometimes be weak. It's good against mid-range and control, but against aggro, this card is terrible. They're already going to be low on cards. They're going to help them enable things like Hazoret. Just doesn't seem worthy enough to really think it's going to be a competitive card. But it looks like a very fun card to build a deck around. Could steal some wins from opponents. But yeah, not going to see any competitive play. And that's for all the reasons I just listed. So yeah. That's all the spoilers that we have so far. This is 11:15 a.m. Pacific time, so maybe there's more spoilers out, and I just haven't seen them. If you guys haven't seen my other spoilers video, I'll also link that in the description. It'll probably be in the top right corner. Click the eye icon. We got to see 2 Elder Dinosaurs and some pretty cool artifacts and enchantments. So, yeah, that is it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed. Tomorrow, I think... We're supposed to be the first day of spoilers, but I guess it's today. But yeah, probably tomorrow you're going to see another spoilers video from me. So thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.